Hey everybody, this is Coach Coventry from Immaculata, introducing to you again another important member of our OHSF All-Decade team who plays defensive back. I'm going to let him do his own introduction as usual.
Hi, this is Arthur Hamlin. I attended St. Francis Xavier High School between 2014 and 2018. Played under Coach Mark Jennings. Went on to Football North, and now I'm playing free safety here at Colgate University in Hamilton, New York.
That's amazing. And, Colgate, no slouch school. And, your time in Ottawa high school football clearly was one of those very memorable times in the Ottawa high school scene, and you yourself memorable. But before we even get into any of that, I'd love to find out, the backstory. We had a chance, of course, to talk with your brother about his pathway, but, you had your own unique pathway. And I want to learn from there what influenced you to pick up the sport of football and, take it before getting into high school and, people and coaches and all these things.
Definitely. Yeah, I guess I started my life off, I don't know if my brother mentioned, but we played hockey when we started off. So I was playing hockey up until about grade 9. And from that time, grade 7, grade 8, I'd played touch football, started getting into football a bit more just because I wasn't enjoying hockey as much. It became a little too political for me. And then finally in grade 8, I went to the Carleton Ravens sort of prep program. They had some younger students and they were just getting after it. That's where I started learning football the most. And then going into grade 9, I got to play high school football still while playing Ottawa 67's AAA hockey. And then by the time I actually got drafted to a junior A in hockey, I was dead set on playing football. I was just out there with the Cumberland Panthers JV team, and so I was just getting more into football. And by the end of grade 9, I was really serious. I quit hockey, and then it was just a full-on football lifestyle for me. And that was, I guess, my dad was pretty happy because he's pretty big in football. He's a football coach in the area as well. So, yeah, it just became a football switch. Everyone was football-oriented, and that's just how the journey started, I guess.
Yeah, now having an ex-CFL player in the household, that must have been a pretty big influence on wanting to continue to play football. But was he ever, trying to get you to always switch, or did he just let you to kind of do your own thing?
No, he honestly, he let us do what we wanted to do. I still remember coming up, I played soccer and hockey. Those were the two sports I oriented between winter and summer. And my dad hated watching soccer, but he came to every single soccer game just to watch me because, that's his son. He really didn't care about what sport we were involved in. He just loved watching us ball out, do our best, and achieve something. And, eventually it got to his realm of football, and he was pretty happy that it was in his corner now. And
for sure.
He just rolled with it.
And were you always a defensive back growing up, or did you play all over the place?
Growing up, mainly I was playing defensive back, but as I began to grow with football, get better, I began to be an athlete. I was playing receiver, DB, linebacker, really anything, running back, even a bit of a few snaps at QB. So yeah, I was just wherever a coach wanted to put me, I'd be down to play. Not much to it.
It's great to be flexible. And, I think your background in athleticism in general kind of helped you with that. And you can kind of see how it transitions at that point. It's really important to play multiple sports growing up. And it's definitely one of those things your dad had the right idea. It might not have been soccer. It might not have been hockey, but, he's keeping you involved in sports, and it transitioned really well. And that transition, of course, led you to Santa Fe High School. And of course, you were playing with the Cumberland Panthers and then also splitting time with, at the time you could play both. You were playing high school ball as well. I'd love for you to talk about, your pathway in high school and talk about the memories you had and who you were influenced by and some coaches there as well.
Definitely, yeah. So I guess the biggest influence definitely had to be my dad as well as Coach Mark Jennings at St. FX. So Coach Jennings, he knew me for a while. So just because my brother played for him and he knew I was going to be the next big thing, I guess, out of the Hamlin name. So yeah. I still remember, I think it was grade 9 we were playing at St. Pat's, and I got my first kick return, and I took it all the way around horizontally, and I got maybe like 5 yards. And I remember he took me aside and he's like, "You can do better than that. If you ever run sideways like that, you're not returning the ball." Switched it up, started going down the field, and started getting some more touchdowns, returns, receptions, everything. Really, he just, he was patient with me. My first year of football wasn't really that good. I was only playing DB, but by grade 10, he was giving me shots at running back, fullback, receiver, getting me anywhere he could, really, because he saw the potential. And then specifically my brother, he was getting me trained well because he was playing at Carleton there. So whenever he could give me points, tips, anything, we'd be at the park putting in some work, footwork wise, getting some hand-eye coordination in. And really, I was just, growing, using everyone to my advantage. My dad got me involved with Team Ontario, so I was getting to compete with a lot of better players at these Team Ontario development camps, and then as well playing JV. It was a good experience because you get better coaching. You're surrounded with better players than it is in high school ball as well as in the CAFA ball. So you just get the chance to really shine and understand how to play football rather than focusing on each responsibility because someone else might miss it. You're more focused on your responsibility, doing your job. So I guess that portion of playing Cumberland Panthers really helped me understand, like, football is a 12-person game. Everyone's got to do their job. So if someone else is not doing their job, just everything's gonna fall apart. You got to make sure you're doing your job. So definitely playing for the Cumberland Panthers, that helped a lot. And then really it was just St. FX, Mark Jennings gave me his pointers, gave me the life lessons I needed. My father, he gave me the pointers I needed, and my brother as well. Really, it was tight-knit group giving me information, and it progressed more and more. I went to Gridiron Academy. I think it was grade 11. And so I got some
exposure. And that grade 11 year was really kind of a breakout year for you in terms of recruiting, and not only just recruiting, but like kind of just becoming the player that you were and the dominant player that you were. Not only using Gridiron and of course learning from your Panther time, but even in that high school scene, you ended up as one of the top DBs in that class. And ending up on the All-Star game and whatnot, and it was one of those things that that group that year was one of the better teams that St. FX has had as well. Can you talk about that season a little bit?
Definitely. My grade 11 year, I think we were best the grade 10 year. Actually, we played. I think we had a lot of grade 12s, grade 11s. We didn't have a lot of younger kids at St. FX. I remember I was one of the few people in grade 10 playing, and we had only a few grade 9s playing. So that grade 10 year was probably our best year. I think we beat St. Pete's when we played them at home at St. FX, and then we lost to them in the city finals. But the next year in grade 11, we had a nice shot at redemption. I remember we came out, we beat Franco Cité at home. We came out, we beat St. Joe's as well, I remember. I'm not sure who else we had played that year, but near the end of the year, I'd sort of had a lingering hip injury because I had just finished my JV season with Cumberland Panthers, and then I was playing high school as well as the CAFA at that time. So I missed out on the last 3 season games, but when we got to the quarterfinals, we played St. Matt's, and after that, St. Matt's, I think they won the championship that year. So it was a tough one.
Pretty stacked St. Matt's team, but I mean that doesn't take away from any of your individual accolades. We all know, how much of a baller you were, and absolutely returning kicks, being a defensive back, being a marauder around the field. You kind of could be put in seamlessly to whatever position they needed you to play, and it clearly led to your transition to Football North. And your ability to kind of take that in a unique route, which is the American system, and transitioning to 4-down football. For student athletes who are looking, going forward to get down to the States, can you talk about that recruiting process and where your head was at going through the transition to American football and wanting to play in the U.S.?
Yeah, definitely. I think the best way to put it is like here, you have a small group of football people, and they've been playing football, for however long. You have some kids that are good, some kids that aren't really that good, but you have these NCAA All-Stars, and when you get to the States, I feel like everyone there, like even if they're not like a baller, they still know how to play, they still know how to do the fundamentals, they still know how to do their responsibility right, make the tackle, make the grab. So I guess when I came down to the States, I really had to step it up because I couldn't just be a regular NCAA All-Star anymore, couldn't just be a high school Ottawa Star. I really had to become that next level person. And I remember I was getting tackles, just trying to do everything. And by the end of that year, I remember I didn't get much kick. No one wanted to kick the ball to me. It was the same old, returning any kickoff that I got. So yeah, it was really good just seeing how I could progress at the next level. And then in terms of the recruiting process, the biggest thing I was doing was going to the camps, going to the exposure camps. I was getting a few follows on Twitter from different D1 coaches, but not a lot of talk about offers. They really wanted to see me on campus, coming down and showing my skills. So it was pretty difficult in the beginning, just I feel coming from Canada, because it's just not the same. It's not the same exposure. They're sort of worried about making the decision because it's a big decision to offer a kid a scholarship. So they definitely have their doubts sometimes, but
Well, let's be honest, population wise, every time there's one like you, Arthur, there's probably 10 of them, and that's not taking away from you. It's just it's a population thing, right? And that's, so you have to be very special. And clearly that's, something that you were, because they were willing to take that shot. But for you, before you even got to get down there, there's clearly, hoops you got to jump through to even get to the NCAA. What was that like going through that, and how did your recruiting process go?
It was so to begin with, it began with the NCAA clearinghouse. So I had to make sure that I got all my grades cleared, my core GPA of a certain caliber, so I could be eligible to go to these different schools, as well as taking care of the SAT. Some kids take the ACT, I took the SAT, so it was a lot of prep practice during grade 12, my senior year, just making sure that I had the answers and had the skills to answer the questions effectively, because it's a system where your GPA, you can get, if you have a higher GPA, you can get a lower SAT score. So I had to sort of match it out so I could get the best possible results and be eligible to go to these highly academic schools, as well as the ones that were more subpar. But that was the first big hurdle, I guess, just the NCAA clearinghouse and the SAT. After that, it was really just getting down and having people view you, I guess, in person. Like, you really just had to get down to the camps, travel all the time. I remember it really took away from your high school life. Like, you really got to dedicate yourself and not let all these different activities get in the way. Like, people would be going out to parties that night, and I'd be driving down to who knows where, Buffalo, to go to a football camp, stuff like that. And I still remember the night after prom, I was up at maybe 5 a.m. and I was driving down to Maine to go to a football camp. So yeah,
just goes to show you the type of dedication it takes to get there, though. It's no joke. If you really want it, you have to sacrifice a few things, and you were clearly willing to do that, and your talent clearly shown as you went to those camps. And so that ended up again with a scholarship to Colgate. Were you always set on Colgate, or were there other offers that were coming in at that point?
I think, to be honest, so I had gone down to Colgate earlier before I'd even talked to the school, really, because Coach Brock Fleming, he's a Colgate alum. He was actually one of my coaches at Football North, so he still had some contacts at Colgate, and he was able to bring me and a few other guys down to a game. And so I sort of fell in love with the campus. It was a beautiful campus. And the game we watched, they absolutely slapped their opponent. So it was great to see. I was really intrigued with the school. I got down to the camp the next year, and I balled out, in my opinion. And then afterwards, I think it was a month afterwards, I was about to go out to Blues Fest with the guys, I think. And I got the call from Coach Schaffner, my defensive coordinator, and he actually told me they were prepared to make the offer. And so that was pretty exciting. That was pretty great feeling. And then after that, like, it was the start of a Football North season. So I was pretty pumped about the season, just focused on that. But as I got the offer, and as more teams began following me, more teams began reaching out to me and whatnot. So I was getting a little bit more attention, but honestly, like when I'd been up on visits and everything, I'd been sold with the academics. My mom had been sold with the academics, and honestly, it was like the best decision I could make. I'd already loved the school, loved some of the coaching staff, so really it was a no-brainer for me. I just wanted to focus on the season, and I just ended my commitment, ended my recruitment, and committed right there. Yeah.
Pretty simple decision for sure. And, I mean, I think watching Colgate dominate never hurts to see on the brain for sure. But that being said, of course, that transition is never an easy one going down to the U.S. And, you're currently there right now / spending time because of COVID, as we all know. But we'd love to see you continue to play at Colgate, and we know you will. And I'd love to, talk about your first couple seasons at Colgate and what's going on right now, and what the vibe is like even during COVID times, if there's a perspective for a season or anything like that.
Last year, I guess we didn't have the best season. We had a lot of graduating seniors the year before, because the team had actually gone on to the NCAA playoffs, and we'd lost to North Dakota State, which is one of the top programs in the FCS. So they had a pretty good season the year before I came down. I think we finished ranked number 8th, but we just had a lot of graduating seniors that year. Didn't have the best year last year, but we started to come together very in the end of the year, and really we were excited to get spring practice going last year until COVID happened. But anyways, for this year, I got to come back on campus. We had sort of like a quarantine and the gate process. We couldn't really get right back into practicing, but eventually we built it up. We got to 3 practices a week. We got to lift 3 times a week. And right now we're sort of focused on perhaps having a spring season depending on what the Patriot League actually decides, as well as their school decides. Mm-hmm. And then in next year as well, 2021, we're opening up the season at Boston College, I believe. So yeah, everything's really set on just getting on the next season and just balling out.
That's great, man. And I really hope, like I said, I really do hope the season does happen. And now you're back in Canada for a little bit, just doing a little quarantining. But yeah, as you know, the Canadian north of the border, we are kind of thinking of you, and you're on the CFL radar right now, clearly as a top prospect going further. Talk about some advice that student athletes can get from you, and you can leave and give some wisdom to in terms of getting to that point, being on the doorstep of CFL or NFL draft. What kind of advice can you leave for an Ottawa student athlete?
I definitely say you just got to be dedicated. You got to be diligent. You got to be putting in the work that these guys across the border are putting in, because grade 9, these guys are in the weight room. They're lifting weights. They're pushing themselves. They're getting the field work, stamina work, conditioning work, everything really. So you just got to be able to push yourself, start watching film young, reviewing what you need to do, start recognizing stuff like tendencies in your opponents, and just be dedicated to your lifting, your training, and just you got to go out, ball out on the field the way it's meant to be done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you hit it there. This is the first time someone's mentioned this that anybody else has, is the film study component, right? And starting to get in the weight room at a young age. A lot of guys, just namely here in the city and otherwise, they watch film, but they think it's for highlights, and it's not for analyzing your opponent. You can actually learn quite a bit from just watching the tendencies and other teams. You get a lot you get a lot from just watching yourself as well, learning what your tendencies are and what your problems are and what you can improve on as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, honestly, thank you, Arthur, for this Zoom talk, and it was a pleasure getting to know you, and congratulations again on making this OHSF All-Decade team.
I appreciate
no small feat. Coach Jennings and all the other coaches were pretty unanimous on having to put you on the list. So it was one of those things that we really had to deliberate, but also came to a pretty good consensus that you were one of those guys that absolutely influenced Ottawa high school football during this decade. So congrats.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Well, this is Coach Coventry signing off from the OHSF All-Decade team. We just added another DB to the list, Arthur Hamlin. Congratulations. We hope to see you do bigger things again this year, and hopefully a season at Colgate All the best and take care.
Hey, yeah, you guys are gonna see me take over, man. Promise you that.
I love that. All the best, brother.
All the best to you as well.